that, now let's move forward with our fifth session of the day. The topic for this session is what high-performing organizations do differently. Practitioner-led experience sharing and bringing real-world insight. Here we have a very phenomenal speaker himself, Head of Marketing, F1Soft International, Mr. Abhisekh Maskey. Mr. Maskey is a marketing professional, educator, and public speaker with extensive experience in branding, communications, and digital marketing. In his current role, he leads marketing and communication initiatives, bringing impactful brand narratives and engaging audience in a digital-first environment. A big round of applause for Mr. Abhisekh Maskey, please.
Is this working? Hello? Hi. All right, guys, before we begin, when I was actually invited to this program, I wanted to tell you a story. So back in the days when I was doing my MBA, mostly marketing, it had already been a few years. And while I was supposed to choose my specialization, what I thought was instead of choosing marketing, I'd go for HR. And a lot of people didn't like it. You're not the HR kind of a guy. You're rude. You don't know how to talk. Probably you're good at creatives, but you're not the HR guy. But there was one firm belief that I always had, and I think it's time to prove it today. So back then, one of the things that I always believed in was HR is going to be the new marketing. And that was it. That was what I was thinking about. And as I was saying, I'm going to prove you why this is true. So since my topic is about a tech company, and tech companies must say, every tech company has to go through something which is kind of good, but very scary at the same time. And that's called growth. When tech company starts to grow, it just doesn't grow. It grows in full speed. And when a company starts to grow in full speed, one of the things that we can see is that you need to think, act, and grow really, really fast. And a lot of times, especially since we're in Kathmandu and the speed limit is 50 kilometers per hour, and if you go beyond that, it starts to get really, really scary. Speed is scary, and that's what we're going to talk about. Because as soon as we think about speed inside a company sano hunda samma चाहिँ culture भन्ने कुरा, it's so easy to spread. It spreads really, really naturally. If you think about it, there might be 10 people in the room or within your organization. You'll see everybody's faces every single day. You know their personal lives as well, and you literally know what they like and what they don't like. But as soon as the company starts to grow, it doesn't take much time for a tech company to grow from 10 people to 100. That's where the danger starts. Because this time, the company is going to grow, but the culture won't be spread automatically. I'll give you some time to think about it. Culture does not spread automatically. This is the time when one of the most important things needs to be done, that is, you need to design and communicate it. So back in the days, while I was working at F1Soft, they created a strategy committee, and they started to look into how the company can scale up. It was already growing, but it needed a structure. So there was one strategy team that was completely working on how to grow the company properly. Probably one of the conversations was about revenue, another one was about optimization, another one was about HR, and probably the headcounts, and all of these things. But this time, the whole conversation was about one little thing. That's where we got involved, and that was, what are the specific things that actually made the company successful? Who are the people who were doing things exceptionally good? Who were the high-performing teams? What were they doing something differently that actually helped to grow the company? So once that was thought of, they kind of listed down things, and when we got the paper, it was very interesting for us because it wasn't about skills anymore. They were talking about what is value. the value that every employee was bringing into the table. And that's the time when two very oddly unfamiliar departments were invited. And that was HR and marketing. Now, if you think about it, these guys cannot be friends. I'm sure all the HRs in the room, you can figure out, the biggest troublemakers inside an organization is always the marketing guys. They don't know how to dress up for the work. They're always late. They say stupid things to their clients as well as employees. You duita category sathi bhanne sakदैन. And when we try to look into it, like for me as a marketing guy, there are 4 P's in marketing: product, place, price, and promotion. Probably promotion bhanne कुरा चाहिँ it makes sense to you, and that's what I expect from you as well, असारमा. But यतापट्टि HR को साइडबाट हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ अर्को 4 P's, which is very interesting at the same time. You're talking about performance, you're talking about policies, you're talking about the potential of employees that's there in the company. And then the other one is going to be, you're going to be talking about processes. Nothing in common. But one specific thing that binds both of them together is the love that they have for people. For us, it's customers. For you, it's the employees. As simple as that. People at the center of everything that we do. अब यही कुरालाई हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ एचआरले च्यालेन्ज चाहिँ कहाँ हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ कम्युनिकेसनमा हुन्छ क्या. Communication becomes one of the biggest challenges for HR. And I'll give you an example. HR challenge किन हुन्छ communication भन्दा this is how they communicate के. Thank you for your concern. I'll get back to you later. Yours truly, HR. Now think about it. Overall organization, if you look into it, there are so many departments. Your department is the only department that has human written on it. Human resource. And you are the ones who are talking like a robot. There's the problem. Ab yo kurale, if you look into it, everybody's talking about AI. Everybody is worried that AI is going to replace them. But at the same time, AI is actually probably worried that you are going to replace their job because you talk more robotic than them. If you want to click this picture, I'll wait. But again, if you think about it, the word that I used was challenged. I'm not saying you're bad at communication. You guys are great at communication. Because for you, if we put context of communication into the HR world, what happens is the job of HR, or in the world of HR, communication actually means talking in a comprehensive and in a very, very clear way. Agree? That's why the reason your documents are 20 pages long, you have a lot of filings to do, you have documented literally everything, and every email that you sent is probably 5 pages long. And that's important because that's what's required. For us, for marketing, communication becomes something completely different. Our job is just to make sure that the message is sent across. You give me a 20-page document, my job is to turn it into a 2-line statement. You talk about the company's growth plan, I'm going to make it a 3-word tagline. That's my job. That's how it works. So now, when these two teams were called together, our job was very clear. For HR, it was to make things clear. For marketing, it was to make things sticky. That was it. And that's how the whole exercise started. Because what we understood here was clear communication is an information pass गर्ने भयो. But at the same time, memorable communication is going to connect with people and transform behaviors. And that's when we got a document full of text. Right? The text was so much. These were the words that described how the people are valued here. So मान्छेहरुको core values के हुन्छ भनेर चाहिँ this was actually generated from the most top performing employees as well as the most हुन्छ नि त्यो सबभन्दा खतरा teamsहरुबाट निस्केको words. And when we looked into this, we started grouping it together. And what we saw was there were 5 words that actually made sense to us. Right? If we look at the 5 words here, it was empathy, grit, integrity, respect, and trust. If you look at this core value, this is a lovely core value to have something on the board and for everybody to remember. But marketing ko kaam ke ta? HR created this, but what's the job of marketing now? Our job is to shuffle it a little bit and give it a form. So we just changed the order a little bit, and what we figured out was there's something very, very interesting here. So these 5 words actually translate into something we all know, a tiger. Suddenly, the employees at F1Soft were tigers, and it was very easy for everyone to remember. Trust, integrity, grit, empathy, and respect. Now, everybody can remember it very, very simply. हामीहरूको अफिसमा त इन्टर्नल जोक पनि भनेको थियो कि कोही अफिसभित्र छिर्यो भने बाग आयो भन्ने हुन्छ नि. That's how the culture started to spread. That's how the conversation started to happen based on core value, which is usually just few words stuck at reception. अब यो कुरा हेर्दै जाँदाखेरि चाहिँ value भन्ने कुरा is good. Core value भन्ने कुरा is very important, but if we put it in context of an organization, how do we spread it? Because baglai pani, if it wants to grow, it needs to have an environment, and that environment is called culture. अब culture को पनि exercises गर्न थाल्यौँ हामीले, है? अनि then we figured out 5 important words here as well. So one of the things that we figured out was अघि त्यो bias वाला कुरा गरिरहेको थियौँ नि. One of the most important things for us became fairness. We loved having fun while working. There was an environment of learning around. Innovation was at the core of everything we do. And again, one of the most important things for us is collaboration. So you patch out words देख्दाखेरि चाहिँ again, the job of marketing was very simple. Again, we need to shuffle it. Right? Then we shuffled it again. And then, I would say you can probably know a pattern here. Our 5 words that we selected turned into our culture pillar, which was a cliff. So now Tiger is on a cliff, and that was one of the exercises we did, which actually helped us create value, as a core value as well as culture pillar inside F1Soft Group. If you look at this, this might look like a very simple exercise. What actually happened in the background was very interesting. Core value मात्र बनाउनु परेको, employees को मात्र कुरा गर्नु पाएको भए, HR would have done it in their own ways. But as soon as the collaboration happened between HR and marketing, this turned into a full-fledged 360-degree campaign. Now, everybody inside F1Soft were seeing it. Now, कसरी भयो भन्दा, firstly, when we came up with this idea, Tiger on a Cliff, we thought we'll put the soft toys of tigers everywhere inside the office so people will start talking about it. And it's like, no, that's going to be too kiddish. We wanted to make this formal, strong, and people should remember it. So what we did was we created a 10-foot tall statue about this, and we put it somewhat like that at the entrance of the office. Now, everybody's talking about what's that tiger, and people are proudly explaining it. Every employee suddenly turned into brand ambassadors. They started talking about this. When they posted this picture, everybody started to respond to it on social media as well. Besides that, to make it go even further, there were awards designed just to value people who were taking core value too seriously inside the office. So there was an award. There was an award called Tiger Award. I won that, by the way. Anyways. Besides that, there's एउटा के भन्छ यो newsletter inside the office. That newsletter featured different articles about people who are living the value. We have a board inside the office where we stick pictures of the collaborative work that we do. So we started doing something called Year of Our Culture, and right now we're at the Year of Innovation. Your last year ko Year of Collaboration थियो. And then every little activity that we do was connected with either our core value or our culture pillar. So यो सबै कुरा गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ now interestingly के भयो भन्दा people started talking about us. That was marketing, that was brand for us. It worked like magic. And we weren't spending anything outside. There's just employees talking about it all over social media, at dinner tables, at conferences, at like restaurants and having coffee, and that was going all organically through the employees. Now think about it. You don't need to hire a brand ambassador when you're actually having so many brand ambassadors inside your organization coming every day. All of this was only possible because we did one thing. We stopped working in silos. HR department भने HR department हो, marketing भने marketing हो, यो भने त्यो. There was no such के भन्छ त्यो blocks there. We worked into projects like how project management was done. Everybody had their role, everybody had their insights, everybody had their kits, but at the end, everybody came to one conclusive कुरा, and that just went forward. About why I kept saying HR is the new brand is because great brands always tell stories. Right? These were the great brands that we figured out from the internet right now. Apple ko afne stories sa, Coca-Cola ko afne stories sa, Microsoft has their own stories, and we keep talking about these stories even though it was not advertised. It always traveled. And the best thing about stories is stories are actually culture ko ghar. Cultures actually live inside stories. And if you think about it, every festival that we celebrate right now is passed on to us because there is a story behind it. Holi ko afne story sa, Dasai has its own story. Probably, 2 दिन अगाडि घोडे जात्रा थियो, probably त्यसको पनि आफ्नै story छ. Everything, every culture is transferred from one generation to other through stories, and that's the reason why it's so sticky. Within an organization, what happens is the stories are almost there. It's about people helping each other out. It can be about people failing, learning, and winning. It can be about people challenging the status quo. So as a presentation, one of the things that I really want to say is, besides the basic work that every HR does, the future is going to be slightly different. Because one more KPI is going to be added into your list. And that is, you have to act like the architects of the culture of a company. And by that, what that means is you're the powerhouse of stories. Every employee is going to tell you their stories. You're the one who's collecting it. And there will be other departments who's going to help you spread it out even faster and better. And it's not just going to help us, the team. It's going to help the overall company in every different way possible. So, मलाई चाहिँ एउटा त्यो टेक कम्पनीमा काम गर्दाखेरि one thing that I heard as soon as I joined F1Soft was the true power of technology is in its invisibility भन्छ क्या. So technology has to be invisible. Great technologies are always invisible. यादै हुँदैन. The way we're paying without cash right now, that feels invisible right now. It's like an everyday habit. HR को केसमा चाहिँ, let's look into this in a very different way. HR को केसमा चाहिँ culture is the invisible environment that you're creating. And once that is done, I can actually proudly say that HR is the new marketing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abhisekh, for such an insightful presentation. Like he said, great brands always tells stories. I love how Mr. Abhisekh brought in the topic about how HR and marketing team can work together to promote their brands, their values, and their working culture. And yes, HR are the architects of any company, any workplace, and marketing and HR should definitely work hand in hand. And HR is the new marketing. A big round of applause for that. And may I have him on the center stage one more time, as we would like to give you a token of appreciation on behalf of Growth Sellers. And Samjana ma'am, let's have you on stage. Thank you so much, Mr. Abhishek. Thank you, Samshana ma'am.